Jamal had finished his night shift at the small grocery store downtown. The streets were mostly empty, and the soft hum of streetlights filled the silence. It was late and most people in the neighborhood were asleep. Jamal preferred these quiet nights, the calm after a long day, when the city felt peaceful and almost still. He liked to walk home slowly, thinking about his plans, the small dreams he held on to, and the comforting thought of reaching his small apartment without any trouble. But that night there was something in the air that felt different, though he couldn't put his finger on it. As he walked past the old apartment complex near the abandoned warehouse, he noticed a lone security guard patrolling the perimeter. The guard, an older man with a serious expression, was dressed in a standard uniform, complete with a badge that glimmered faintly under the streetlight. He walked with steady steps, checking doors, peering into dark corners, and occasionally making notes on a small pad he carried. Jamal had seen him before. The guard worked late hours and often patrolled this side of the street. Usually he just nodded politely at Jamal, or Jamal would nod back. But this time something in the guard's eyes made Jamal pause. "Hey," the guard said, lowering his voice as Jamal approached. "Be careful. Not everything is as it seems tonight." Jamal blinked, a little surprised. He wasn't sure if the guard was joking or being serious. He tried to respond lightly. Okay. Thanks, I guess." The guard just stared for a moment, then gave a small, almost imperceptible shake of his head. "Keep your eyes open," he added before turning back to his patrol. Jamal continued walking, but the words stuck in his mind. There was a strange weight to them, a sense that something might happen, though he didn't know what. He shook his head, trying to dismiss the thought. Maybe the guard was just being cautious, thinking about something he knew that Jamal didn't. Night shifts made people a little paranoid sometimes, he reasoned. But as he moved further down the street, Jamal couldn't help noticing subtle signs that something was off. The streetlights flickered in a way that seemed unusual, one after another, casting uneven shadows. He could hear faint noises, rustling, scraping, whispers, but every time he tried to locate them, they disappeared. His pace quickened slightly, not out of fear, but a sense of unease he could not explain. When he approached the abandoned warehouse, the sense of tension increased. The building had been empty for years. Its windows were mostly boarded up, though some panes were broken, leaving jagged shapes that reflected the dim light. The warehouse door, heavy and metallic, had rust spreading across its edges. Jamal had never paid much attention to it before, but tonight it seemed different. There was a sense that the building was watching, silently waiting. As he walked closer, he noticed something unusual, a faint light inside, flickering, as if someone had a small lantern or flashlight. Jamal stopped, heart beating a little faster. He could see shadows moving behind the broken windows. They were vague at first, just shapes, but they seemed to shift quickly, almost nervously. Jamal felt a chill, not from the cold air, but from the strange feeling that he was seeing something he shouldn't. He debated whether to keep walking or to take another route home. Curiosity tugged at him. He wanted to understand what was happening, but the caution in the guard's words echoed in his mind. "Be careful. Not everything is as it seems tonight." Jamal shivered and decided to stay on the sidewalk, keeping his distance. He kept his hands in his pockets, trying to calm his racing thoughts. As he watched, he noticed more details. There were tire marks on the ground leading toward the back of the warehouse, fresh and deep. Pieces of trash and broken wood were scattered, as if someone had forced entry or carried something heavy. Jamal crouched slightly behind a parked car, trying to get a better view without being seen. The shadows inside the warehouse moved faster now. He could hear low voices murmuring, though he couldn't make out the words. It was clear. Someone was inside and they were busy. At that moment, the guard appeared again, a few meters away, almost like he had been watching Jamal all along. His expression was tense. Without speaking, he pointed subtly toward the main road, signaling Jamal to keep distance. Jamal understood. The guard wasn't joking. There was danger here and he needed to stay cautious. Jamal's mind raced. He had never been involved in anything like this before. He thought about calling the police, but the idea of involving himself directly felt dangerous. He also thought about leaving immediately, but something made him linger. It wasn't bravery, it was curiosity. The human need to understand what was happening in front of him. He stayed, keeping hidden behind the car, eyes fixed on the warehouse. Suddenly, a loud crash came from inside. A door banged open and slammed shut quickly. Jamal jumped, heart pounding, as the sound echoed through the empty street. The guard's voice, low and urgent, whispered, "Stay back. Don't get involved. Watch, but don't be seen." Jamal nodded silently, though he wasn't sure the guard could see him. The warning had shifted from strange to serious. Minutes passed. Jamal tried to make sense of what he was seeing. The warehouse, once just an empty shell, seemed alive with activity. Shapes moved across the broken windows, figures carrying boxes, crouching and speaking in hushed tones. Something significant was happening, and Jamal realized he was witnessing the beginning of it. He noticed one figure pause near the broken window, looking directly toward him, or so it seemed. Jamal froze, hoping he hadn't been spotted. The figure quickly turned away, and the guard beside him let out a soft exhale, shaking his head. Jamal understood that being caught here could lead to serious trouble. As he stood there, Jamal reflected on the guard's words again. It had seemed like a casual warning at first, almost like small talk, but now it made perfect sense. The guard had knowledge, experience, and instincts that Jamal didn't. That brief cautionary note was keeping him alive, keeping him aware of the risks he couldn't yet fully understand. Time felt slow. Every sound seemed amplified, the distant barking of a dog, the hum of the streetlights, the faint whispering from the warehouse. Jamal kept his breathing steady, focusing on what was happening, trying to piece together a story from the shadows. He knew one thing for sure. Whatever was inside that warehouse was not ordinary. It was serious, and it could be dangerous. Then a sudden movement caught his eye. A small light appeared at the far end of the warehouse, moving in a deliberate way. Jamal could make out the silhouette of someone carrying a box. The guard signaled again, this time waving his hand sharply toward the sidewalk to lead Jamal a bit further away from the building. Jamal followed cautiously, keeping low, every step careful. The warning had become a guide, a lifeline in a moment of uncertainty. As they moved together, Jamal couldn't shake the tension building in his chest. He felt like he had entered a different world, one where danger was close and the ordinary rules of life no longer applied. He thought about his small apartment, the quiet safety he had taken for granted, and realized how fragile normal life could be when unexpected events appeared. By the time they reached a slightly safer spot, Jamal paused to catch his breath. The guard looked at him, eyes serious, and simply said, "Pay attention. Tonight will show you things most people never see." Jamal nodded, understanding the weight of those words. He didn't know what was coming, but he sensed that the warning had marked the start of something that could change everything. Jamal stayed in the shadow of a nearby wall, watching silently, heart racing with both fear and anticipation. He realized that sometimes a simple warning could be the difference between safety and disaster. The night was quiet again, but Jamal knew better. The calm was only temporary. Something was happening inside that warehouse, and what would unfold next was far beyond anything he had imagined. The wind blew softly, carrying the faint sounds of the city into the empty streets. Jamal adjusted his stance, readying himself to witness the night ahead. He had no idea that the event set in motion by a simple warning from a guard would soon stun him in ways he could never have predicted. The quiet neighborhood, the empty streets, the flickering lights, all were part of a night that would change Jamal's understanding of caution, curiosity, and courage. And with that thought lingering, Jamal prepared for what was about to come, unaware that every step he took from this moment forward would lead him deeper into a web of suspense, mystery, and unexpected revelations. The guard's warning had been clear, but Jamal was only beginning to grasp just how serious it really was. Jamal crouched behind the wall, heart racing as the night air pressed against his skin. Every sound seemed louder now. The soft rustle of leaves, the distant hum of traffic, the faint creak of metal from the warehouse. He watched the shadows shift inside the broken windows, and a shiver ran down his spine. The guard, standing just a few feet away, kept his eyes fixed on the building, muscles tense, ready for anything. Jamal realized the guard wasn't just cautious. He was prepared, as if he had been expecting something like this all along. Minutes passed. The figures inside the warehouse moved faster now, carrying boxes and speaking in hushed tones. Jamal could hear fragments of words: shipment, tonight, finished. It was clear that whatever they were doing, it was secret and important to them. He felt a mix of fear and curiosity. What could be so significant inside that abandoned warehouse? The guard leaned closer to Jamal and whispered, "They are not here for ordinary business. Stay quiet, watch, and don't be seen." You understand? Jamal nodded. His throat was dry and his hands shook slightly, but he tried to steady himself. I understand, he whispered back. As they watched, Jamal noticed a new group of people approaching from the far side of the street. They moved with urgency, glancing around nervously. The guard tensed again. They didn't expect anyone tonight, he muttered. This could get dangerous. The new group entered the warehouse quickly and Jamal could see the tension in the room rise. The men inside immediately began whispering louder, pointing at something on the floor. It looked like a briefcase or a box, but Jamal couldn't see clearly from his hiding spot. He could sense the energy in the room shift. What had been a controlled operation now felt chaotic, unpredictable. Jamal tried to calm his thoughts. He had never been in a situation like this. At work, the worst he faced were angry customers or minor mistakes. But here, the stakes were real. He realized that being in the wrong place at the wrong time could have serious consequences. And yet he couldn't turn away. The guard's warning had sparked something in him. A sense of awareness, a need to pay attention, to learn what was happening. Suddenly, one of the figures near the window glanced outside. Jamal froze, holding his breath. The man's eyes scanned the street quickly, and for a moment Jamal feared he had been spotted. But then the man nodded at someone inside and turned away. The guard beside Jamal exhaled quietly, as if he had been holding his breath too. They're cautious but not suspicious yet. Good, he said in a low voice. Jamal's mind raced with questions. Who were these people? What was the shipment they were moving? And why did the guard seem to know so much about them? He realized that he had stumbled into something far bigger than he could have imagined. The guard's warning wasn't just about caution, it was about survival. Jamal decided to take a closer look, keeping low and moving silently along the shadows. He peered around the corner of the warehouse and could see more details. The men were carrying boxes stacked with precision, whispering instructions and checking something on small devices that looked like tablets or phones. The scene felt organized yet tense, as if everyone knew that one wrong move could cause disaster. The guard whispered again. Watch closely. They are hiding something valuable, and they don't want anyone knowing. You might get a chance to see it, but stay careful. Jamal nodded, straining his eyes to see inside. One of the men opened a box and a soft gleam of light reflected from its contents. Jamal couldn't make out exactly what it was, but it seemed important. The guard placed a hand on his shoulder, guiding him a little further back. Not yet. Wait, don't let them notice you. As they stayed hidden, Jamal noticed small details that made him uneasy. The air smelled faintly of gasoline or some chemical, the kind that could be dangerous in a closed space. He heard occasional clinks like metal being handled, and the soft shuffle of boots on concrete. Everything about the scene screamed that this was not normal activity. Jamal's curiosity grew stronger despite the fear he felt. He wanted to understand, to know what was happening. He realized that he was witnessing something that could have serious consequences if it went wrong, and yet he felt a strange sense of responsibility. If he turned away, he would never know the truth. If he stayed, he had to be careful and smart. Minutes later, one of the men stepped outside briefly, glancing around. Jamal could see the tension in his posture, the way he moved quickly but carefully. The guard whispered, "They're checking the perimeter. Watch how they act. It tells a lot about what's inside." Jamal observed closely. The man seemed nervous, constantly scanning the street, adjusting his position near the warehouse door. Jamal realized that the men inside were aware of potential threats. They weren't just moving goods. They were protecting something. The guard's warning echoed again in his mind. Not everything is as it seems tonight. Jamal understood now that the danger wasn't just in what he could see. It was in what he couldn't. Suddenly, a faint noise came from behind them. Jamal froze. The guard held up a hand, signaling him to stay still. They both listened carefully. It was only a cat knocking over a trash can, but Jamal's heart pounded loudly in his chest. The night had changed, and so had he. He realized that awareness, caution, and quick thinking were now essential. The guard spoke softly. "Sometimes the smallest warning can save your life. Remember this." Jamal nodded, feeling the weight of the words. He realized that the guard's earlier warning had not just been about the warehouse, it had been about understanding the world, paying attention and respecting danger even when it seemed distant. As they continued observing, Jamal noticed that one of the men inside the warehouse began moving boxes toward a side door. The guard tensed and whispered, "Something important is coming out. Watch closely." Jamal could see a small figure carrying what appeared to be a briefcase or a locked box. The guard motioned for Jamal to stay low and follow quietly. They moved silently along the shadows, keeping their distance but following the movements closely. Jamal felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the moment when observation could make a difference. They watched as the figure placed the box on a dolly, preparing to move it toward a waiting vehicle. Jamal realized that if they weren't careful, the men could notice them. The guard whispered again, "Stay calm. Move when I move. Don't let them see you." Jamal nodded, muscles tense, eyes fixed on the movements. He could feel every heartbeat, every breath. The night seemed alive with anticipation. Every sound, every shadow could mean discovery or danger. The warehouse, once just a building, now seemed like the center of a hidden world that Jamal had accidentally stepped into. As the figure began moving the box, the guard whispered one last warning. "If anything happens, run, but remember what you saw. It could be important." Jamal's mind raced with possibilities. What was inside that box? Why was it so important? And why had the guard been so careful in warning him? The answers were unclear, but Jamal knew one thing. He had to stay alert. One wrong move could change everything. For the next few minutes, they stayed in the shadows, watching silently, listening carefully and absorbing every detail. Jamal felt a mix of fear, curiosity, and a strange sense of responsibility. He realized that this night, this warning and this strange encounter would not be something he forgot easily. It was the start of a series of events that would soon lead him into the heart of danger and discovery. The night stretched on, quiet but tense. Jamal and the guard stayed hidden, eyes fixed on the warehouse, hearts aware of every sound. Jamal understood the guard's words more clearly now. Sometimes the smallest warning could prevent disaster. Sometimes staying alert and cautious could make all the difference. And sometimes life could surprise you in ways you never imagined. The shadows moved inside the warehouse, the figures shifted, and the box continued its journey. Jamal's heart raced as he realized he was witnessing the beginning of something significant, something that would soon change the course of events in ways he could never predict. The guard had warned him, and now Jamal was beginning to understand why. Jamal stayed crouched behind the low wall, heart pounding as he tried to process everything he had seen so far. The warehouse, which had seemed abandoned and lifeless in the past, now appeared alive with activity. Shadows moved quickly across broken windows. Men whispered urgently, and the faint light from flashlights and small lamps created long dancing silhouettes. Every detail Jamal noticed seemed to confirm what the guard had warned him about. Tonight was not an ordinary night. The guard leaned close, his eyes scanning the building carefully. "They are organized," he whispered. "Everything they do is planned. If you step out of line even slightly, it could go very wrong." Jamal nodded silently, feeling the weight of the warning. He understood now that this was more than curiosity or simple mischief. This was serious, and the guard had given him a real chance to stay safe. But curiosity gnawed at him. He wanted to understand the full picture, to know what was happening inside the warehouse. Suddenly, a faint light appeared near one of the side doors. Jamal could make out a figure moving quickly, carrying a small box or case. The guard tensed, whispering, "They're moving something important. Watch closely, but do not make a sound." Jamal felt his pulse quicken. He could see the figure carefully stepping over debris, moving toward a waiting vehicle parked in the shadows. The guard motioned for Jamal to stay low and follow him quietly. Every step was calculated, silent, and careful. Jamal tried to match the guard's movements, feeling both nervous and exhilarated at the same time. As they edged closer, Jamal could hear muffled voices. One of the men in the warehouse spoke urgently, "Make sure it reaches the truck. Don't let anyone see us." Another voice replied, "We can't fail tonight. Everything depends on this shipment." Jamal's stomach tightened. He had never been so close to something so secretive. The words suggested that whatever was inside the warehouse was valuable, so valuable that the men were willing to take serious risks to protect it. He realized that the guard's warning had not been about nothing. This was life and death, even if he didn't yet know the full story. The guard whispered again, "Pay attention to how they act. Their mistakes, their hesitation, even their gestures can tell us a lot. Observe, learn, but do not interfere." Jamal nodded, straining his eyes to see. The figure carrying the box approached the truck, but then paused, looking around nervously. Jamal noticed that the guard's hand tightened slightly on his shoulder. He realized that the guard had been watching these men for a long time, anticipating moments like this. His experience gave Jamal a sense of reassurance, but it also made him aware of the stakes. Just as the man was about to place the box in the truck, another figure appeared unexpectedly from the opposite side. The tension in the air became almost tangible. Jamal could see the shock and urgency in the first man's movements. The guard whispered sharply. They didn't expect anyone. This could get dangerous now. Jamal froze, unsure of what to do. The guard, sensing his hesitation, gently pulled him back behind a large dumpster. From this new hiding spot, Jamal could see more of the scene. The rival figure confronted the men quickly. Words exchanged in low, urgent tones, and suddenly, the air seemed charged with tension. Jamal's heart raced as he realized that a confrontation was unfolding right before him. The guard's voice was calm but firm, guiding Jamal. Watch. Learn. Do not make a move. If you're careful, you can see everything without being noticed. Jamal obeyed, crouched low, eyes fixed on the scene. He could see the rival men gesturing, pointing, and arguing in whispers. The men inside the warehouse were tense, moving faster, and adjusting their positions near the truck. Jamal noticed one man glance in their direction, then turn away. He realized that even the smallest gestures mattered. Every glance, every pause, every movement was a signal, and the guard had taught him to notice these things. Suddenly, the briefcase or box shifted slightly, almost slipping from the hands of one of the men. Jamal held his breath. If it fell, it could draw attention, or worse, reveal something the men did not want to be seen. The guard, noticing Jamal's tense reaction, whispered, "Relax, stay calm. Watch how they handle it. Even mistakes can be important." The figure carrying the box adjusted it carefully, placing it securely in the truck. The rival men hesitated, then backed away slowly, not wanting to start a fight in the open. Jamal felt a mixture of relief and fascination. He was witnessing a carefully choreographed series of actions, tense and dangerous, yet controlled by people who clearly knew what they were doing. The guard leaned closer. "Now, Jamal, pay attention to the doors. Watch who comes and goes. Watch the patterns. That is how we understand what they are hiding." Jamal watched carefully. Another figure emerged from the warehouse, this time carrying a small device that looked like a tablet. He noticed how the men checked each other, confirming tasks, and then communicated silently with subtle gestures. Jamal realized that this operation had been planned meticulously. There was no room for error, and every move mattered. The guard whispered again, "They think no one sees them. But we do. That is why I warned you. A little awareness can make a huge difference." Jamal felt a rush of understanding. He had entered this situation blindly, but the guard's warning had given him a lens to see clearly. He noticed a small detail. One of the men dropped a key card near the edge of the truck but did not realize it. Jamal pointed it out quietly and the guard nodded. "Exactly. That is why paying attention matters. Little things can reveal a lot." Jamal felt a mix of fear and excitement. Fear because of the danger he was witnessing. Excitement because he was learning. Seeing things that most people would never notice. The night had transformed from ordinary to extraordinary in minutes. As they observed, Jamal saw movement inside the warehouse again. Men were carrying more boxes, moving quickly toward another exit. The guard whispered, "They have multiple shipments. Watch how they coordinate. This is not small scale. Something big is happening." Jamal's eyes widened. He had thought it might be a minor operation, but now it was clear this was organized, possibly involving many people. He understood the guard's seriousness. This was beyond anything he had imagined. Suddenly, a noise came from the far corner of the warehouse. Jamal flinched. A box had been dropped, making a loud clatter. The men inside froze, glancing toward the sound. Jamal felt his heart race. If they noticed him, everything could go wrong. The guard put a steady hand on his shoulder. "Stay calm. Nothing has seen you yet, but notice how they react. Their tension tells us what is important." Jamal watched carefully. The men quickly adjusted the box, whispering instructions, and returned to their positions. Their reaction told Jamal that the box, and likely its contents, was highly valuable. The guard's warning had been about more than caution. It had been about understanding the significance of every moment. Minutes passed in tense silence. Jamal and the guard stayed hidden, eyes trained on the warehouse. Jamal realized that he was learning lessons he had never imagined. Awareness, patience, observation, and understanding the value of small details. Each movement inside the warehouse revealed a little more about what was happening, and Jamal felt a mix of fear, awe, and respect. Then the guard whispered, "Now pay attention. Something is about to happen that will show you the real danger." Jamal's stomach tightened. He saw a figure move toward the side door with a heavy box. The guard motioned for him to stay perfectly still. The tension in the air was palpable. Every step, every breath mattered. The box was carried toward a small truck parked in the shadows. Jamal could see the men coordinating silently, moving with precision. Then unexpectedly, a rival group appeared from another alley, catching the men inside off guard. Jamal froze, heart pounding as he realized the confrontation was about to begin. The guard whispered sharply, "Stay low. Watch closely. Do not make a sound." Jamal's mind raced. This was the moment when everything he had learned, every warning and every observation would matter. The rival group's arrival had escalated the situation. The men inside the warehouse looked tense, unsure, but they acted quickly, showing skill and experience in managing the chaos. Jamal held his breath, realizing that the guard's warning had been a lifeline. Without it, he would have been unaware of the danger and in serious trouble. But now he understood the importance of being alert, patient, and careful. The night was far from over, and Jamal knew that what happened next would stun him in ways he could never predict. Jamal's heart pounded like a drum as he crouched behind the dumpster, watching the chaos unfold. The rival group had arrived suddenly, moving with speed and purpose. The men inside the warehouse reacted instantly, grabbing boxes and securing doors, their whispered orders urgent and tense. Jamal could see the glimmer of fear and determination in their movements. This was no ordinary confrontation. It was dangerous, and the slightest misstep could bring disaster. The guard placed a firm hand on Jamal's shoulder. "Watch everything. Notice the way they move, how they react. Every gesture matters." Jamal nodded, trying to control the trembling in his hands. He felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with a strange sense of clarity. This was what the guard had warned him about, an unexpected danger that could change everything in seconds. He realized now that being alert, cautious, and patient was more than a skill. It was survival. The men from the warehouse moved toward the truck, carrying the boxes with urgency. Jamal noticed that each person had a specific role. Some guided the boxes, some kept watch, and others seemed to coordinate with gestures and whispered words. The rival group hesitated for a moment, scanning the scene, calculating their next move. The tension was thick, almost like electricity in the air. Suddenly, a shout came from the rival group. Jamal flinched as he realized that things were escalating. The men inside the warehouse reacted quickly, forming a protective line around the boxes. One of them reached for the briefcase that had been dropped earlier, securing it before anyone could notice. The guard whispered, "They're protecting something extremely valuable. Watch closely. This is where the real risk begins." Jamal's eyes widened. He had never seen anything like this. The rival group's sudden appearance had turned a controlled operation into a tense standoff. Every move was calculated, every action mattered. Jamal felt a mix of fear and fascination. He was witnessing a dangerous situation unfold in real time, and the guard's warning had given him the chance to stay safe while observing. One of the rival men stepped closer, trying to get a look at the boxes. Jamal's stomach tightened. He could see the subtle signals between the men inside the warehouse, the quick nods, the gestures, the whispered instructions. They were trained, or at least very organized, and they were not going to let anything be taken easily. The guard whispered again, "Notice how they respond under pressure. The way they move, how they communicate, it all tells us what is important and what isn't." Jamal focused intently. He saw one of the men from the warehouse carefully lifting the briefcase and moving it toward a hidden corner near the truck. Another man positioned himself strategically, keeping an eye on the rival group. The coordination was precise, almost like a silent dance. Jamal realized that the guard had been right. Every detail mattered, and every move could have consequences. Suddenly, a loud clatter echoed from the other side of the street. Jamal jumped, heart racing. The guard quickly pressed him against the dumpster, keeping him low and hidden. It was only a trash can falling over, but in the tense atmosphere, even small noises felt significant. Jamal understood that in situations like this, awareness of every detail could mean the difference between safety and danger. The rival group made a move toward the truck, but the men inside the warehouse were ready. They blocked the path, gesturing sharply, and the two sides paused. Jamal could see the tension in their bodies, the way they shifted weight, their eyes darting back and forth. The confrontation had reached a critical point. The guard whispered, "Watch carefully. This is how people react when they feel threatened. Their instincts show what they value most." Jamal observed closely. The men inside the warehouse were protecting the briefcase with their lives, while the rival group was trying to find a weakness. Every glance, every shift in position, every subtle gesture was part of a larger picture. Jamal felt like he was learning something important: how to read people, how to notice details that most others would miss. Then a sudden movement caught Jamal's eye. One of the men from the rival group tried to grab a box that had been left near the truck. The man inside the warehouse reacted instantly, moving to intercept him. Jamal's heart pounded. This was the moment the guard had warned about. Danger could strike in an instant. The guard whispered urgently, "Stay calm. Watch, but do not get involved. If you act, you could be caught." Jamal froze, watching the quick exchange. The man from the warehouse managed to push the rival back, securing the box. A brief struggle followed, and Jamal could see the fear and determination on both sides. The tension was unbearable yet mesmerizing. Every second seemed to stretch, filled with the potential for disaster. After a few tense moments, the rival group retreated slightly, reassessing the situation. Jamal realized that the men inside the warehouse were experienced, or at least very careful. They had planned for unexpected events and were handling the chaos with precision. The guard nodded subtly, signaling Jamal to stay focused. Minutes passed. Jamal could feel his muscles tense from crouching and watching. His mind raced with questions. What was inside the boxes? Why were these men so determined to protect it? And how had the guard known that this situation might happen? He realized that the guard's warning had not been random. It had been based on knowledge, experience, and instinct. Suddenly, one of the men inside the warehouse moved toward a side door carrying the briefcase. The guard whispered, "This is it. Watch carefully. This could change everything." Jamal watched as the man opened the door slightly, checking the surroundings. The rival group was momentarily distracted, and the man quickly slipped the briefcase outside, placing it near a hidden spot behind the truck. Jamal realized that the guard's warning had given them the chance to stay safe while witnessing the critical moment. The guard whispered again, "Notice how they manage risk. They move quickly, decisively, but always with caution. That is why they succeed." Jamal nodded, feeling a mix of awe and nervousness. He had never seen anything like this in his life. The careful coordination, the attention to detail, and the awareness of danger all seemed like lessons in survival. He realized that the guard had been teaching him something important, even without saying it directly. Suddenly, the rival group made another move. They approached the hidden spot where the briefcase had been placed. Jamal's heart leapt. The tension was unbearable. The men inside the warehouse reacted instantly, rushing to block them. Jamal could see the fear and determination in both groups. The confrontation had reached its peak. The guard whispered urgently, "Stay low. Watch every move." Jamal's eyes followed the action closely. One of the men from the warehouse grabbed the briefcase and secured it, moving quickly toward the truck. Another man kept an eye on the rival group, ready to react. Jamal realized that this was the moment when training, experience, and awareness mattered most. Suddenly, a loud shout rang out. Jamal flinched, heart racing. The rival group had noticed movement and was reacting. The men inside the warehouse quickly adjusted, moving with precision, securing the boxes and preparing for any potential threat. Jamal felt a rush of adrenaline. The guard's warning had been clear. Tonight was dangerous and every second counted. As the situation unfolded, Jamal noticed something important. One of the men from the rival group dropped a small item, a key or a card of some sort. It fell near the truck unnoticed by most, but not by Jamal. He realized that small details could have big consequences. The guard nodded subtly, acknowledging that Jamal had seen it. Minutes later, the rival group retreated, realizing that the men inside the warehouse were too prepared and too careful. Jamal exhaled quietly, feeling a mix of relief and excitement. He had witnessed danger up close, understood the significance of small details, and seen the importance of awareness and caution. The guard placed a steady hand on Jamal's shoulder. "This is why I warned you. A small warning can save lives. You saw how things could have gone wrong in seconds. Remember that." Jamal nodded, heart still racing. He understood now that the guard's warning had not been just advice. It had been a lesson in awareness, patience, and careful observation. He realized that this night would change him, teaching him skills and instincts he had never needed before. The warehouse was now quieter, the rival group gone for the moment. The men inside continued their work, moving boxes and securing the briefcase. Jamal and the guard stayed hidden, watching, learning, and preparing for what would happen next. Jamal realized that he had come close to danger many times tonight, but the guard's warning, guidance, and experience had kept him safe. He understood that caution, observation, and respect for danger were not weaknesses, they were strengths. As the night stretched on, Jamal remained crouched behind the dumpster, eyes fixed on the warehouse. He knew that what would happen next could stun him in ways he had not yet imagined. The guard's warning had saved him once, but the real test was still ahead. Jamal crouched in the shadows, heart still racing from the earlier confrontation. The rival group had retreated, but he knew the night was far from over. The guard stood beside him, tense and alert, his eyes scanning every movement inside the warehouse. Jamal realized that the calm that followed was temporary. The most critical moments were yet to come. The man carrying the briefcase reappeared, moving quickly toward the truck parked nearby. Jamal could see the careful precision in every step. The guard whispered, "This is it. Watch closely. What happens now will determine everything." Jamal's stomach tightened as the briefcase was carefully loaded into the back of the truck. The men inside the warehouse coordinated silently, checking doors, windows, and each other's positions. The rival group could return at any moment, and the tension was thick. Jamal could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him, but he also felt a strange sense of excitement. This was the moment where observation, patience, and quick thinking mattered most. The guard whispered urgently, "Stay low. We need to see what they do next, but don't draw attention. This is life and death." Jamal nodded, muscles tense, eyes fixed on the scene. The rival group had disappeared into the night, but the guard knew they could be back at any second. The men from the warehouse moved decisively, securing the remaining boxes and preparing for departure. Jamal could see the careful coordination, the way they split tasks, the subtle hand signals, the quiet urgency in their voices. Suddenly, one of the men carrying a small bag tripped over debris, causing a loud clatter. Jamal froze. The guard immediately pressed him against the wall, keeping him hidden. The men inside reacted quickly, moving to cover the fallen bag and ensuring that no one had noticed. Jamal realized that even the smallest mistakes could have serious consequences. The guard whispered, "Notice how they handle mistakes. It shows their priorities and what is truly important." "Remember that," Jamal focused intently. He could see the briefcase being placed carefully in the truck. Another man checked the doors, then returned to guide the others. The operation was almost complete, yet the tension remained high. Jamal felt like he was learning a masterclass in observation and awareness, lessons he had never imagined he would need. Suddenly, headlights appeared at the far end of the street. Jamal's heart skipped a beat. The guard signaled for him to stay still. The rival group had returned, trying to catch the men from the warehouse off guard. Jamal could see the rival men stepping out of their vehicle, scanning the area and preparing to act. The guard whispered, "This is it. The critical moment. Watch everything carefully." Jamal's eyes followed every movement. The men from the warehouse reacted immediately, positioning themselves strategically around the truck. The rival group moved with caution, but urgency showed in their steps. Jamal could feel the tension building, almost like electricity in the air. Every second mattered. One of the men from the warehouse reached for the briefcase, lifting it quickly and moving toward a hidden compartment in the truck. Another man kept watch on the rival group, signaling the others with subtle gestures. Jamal realized that the success of the operation depended on precise timing and careful coordination. Suddenly, a shout rang out from the rival group. Jamal's heart raced as he watched the confrontation escalate. The men from the warehouse reacted instantly, blocking access to the truck and positioning themselves to protect the briefcase. Jamal could see fear, determination, and experience in every movement. This was the moment the guard had warned him about, the point where danger was real and immediate. The guard whispered, "Stay calm. Watch closely." This is where knowledge and patience can save lives. Jamal crouched low, muscles tense, eyes locked on the unfolding scene. He could see the rival men attempting to grab one of the boxes, but the warehouse men were faster, intercepting them with quick, deliberate actions. The briefcase remained safe, hidden behind the men who protected it fiercely. Jamal understood now why the guard's warning had been so urgent. One wrong move, one moment of distraction, and disaster could have struck. As the confrontation continued, Jamal noticed a small detail that others might have missed. One of the rival men dropped a small envelope near the edge of the truck. The guard's eyes flicked to it, then back to Jamal. Exactly. Notice the little things. They often tell the bigger story, he whispered. Jamal felt a rush of understanding. This night was not just about danger. It was about awareness, observation, and learning to read situations carefully. He realized that the guard's warning had been a guide, teaching him to notice what mattered most. The men from the warehouse quickly moved the briefcase to a more secure position inside the truck. Another man checked the doors and windows, ensuring that nothing was left exposed. The rival group hesitated, realizing that their efforts to seize the shipment were failing. Jamal could see the frustration and urgency in their movements, but the warehouse men remained composed, organized, and focused. The guard whispered, "Watch how they protect what is important. Their focus, discipline, and quick thinking are what keep them safe. Remember that lesson?" Jamal nodded, feeling a mix of awe and nervousness. He had never witnessed such a careful, coordinated effort to protect something valuable. The guard's warning had saved him from being caught up in the chaos, and now he understood the depth of what was happening. Suddenly, the rival group began to retreat, realizing that they could not take the briefcase without risking exposure. Jamal exhaled quietly, relief washing over him. The men from the warehouse continued their work, securing the remaining boxes and preparing to leave. Jamal realized that the operation was nearly complete, and the danger was slowly receding. The guard placed a hand on Jamal's shoulder. "This is why I warned you. One small caution can prevent disaster. You saw how quickly things could have gone wrong. Never forget that." Jamal nodded, heart still racing. He understood now that the warning had not just been about the warehouse or the rival group. It had been about life, awareness, and the importance of paying attention to details that most people ignore. He had learned a lesson that would stay with him forever. As the warehouse men finished loading the boxes, the guard signaled for Jamal to move a little further back. "It's almost over," he said. "But stay alert. One final moment could change everything." Jamal followed, keeping low and quiet. He watched as the men from the warehouse completed their preparations and began to move toward their vehicle. The rival group was nowhere in sight, but Jamal knew that danger could return unexpectedly. Every step, every movement was still crucial. Then something unexpected happened. One of the men from the warehouse accidentally dropped a small package outside the truck. Jamal's eyes widened. The guard quickly signaled him to notice it. "See? Even small mistakes can matter," he whispered. Jamal focused intently. The man bent down quickly, retrieving the package and securing it inside the truck. Jamal realized that he had witnessed not just danger, but also the precision and care required to manage it. Every small action had consequences, and the guard's warning had prepared him to see the importance of these details. Finally, the men finished their work and drove away quietly, leaving the street empty once again. Jamal exhaled, feeling a mixture of relief, awe, and exhaustion. The tension of the night slowly faded, replaced by a sense of accomplishment. He had stayed safe, observed carefully, and understood a world he had never known existed. The guard turned to him, eyes serious but calm. "You did well tonight. Remember what you saw, what you learned, and how caution kept you safe. Not everyone gets this chance." Jamal nodded, realizing the truth in the words. The night had been dangerous, unexpected, and full of lessons. The guard's warning had been more than advice. It had been a shield, a guide, and a teacher all in one. As Jamal finally made his way home, he reflected on everything that had happened. The quiet streets, the shadows in the warehouse, the rival group, and the careful coordination of the men inside. All of it had been a reminder of how fragile safety could be and how critical awareness was. He knew that this night would stay with him forever, a story of danger, learning, and survival. When he reached his apartment, Jamal looked back at the street one last time. The warehouse was dark and silent again, but he knew better now. The guard's warning had been real, and the night had been more significant than he could have imagined. Jamal felt a deep sense of gratitude for the caution, guidance, and wisdom the guard had provided. Without it, he might have been caught in a situation far beyond his understanding or control. Jamal sat by his window, thinking about the lessons he had learned, the importance of awareness, the value of patience, and the power of a simple warning. He realized that sometimes one small caution could change everything, saving lives and revealing truths that most people would never see. The night had started quietly, almost like any other, but it had transformed into a series of events that tested courage, observation, and careful thinking. Jamal knew that what he had witnessed and learned would stay with him forever. The guard's warning had been the key. Without it, he might have missed everything, or worse, been in serious danger. And as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Jamal understood something powerful. Life could surprise you in ways you never expected. But caution, awareness, and attention to